Good day learners, welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul Duplessis, you know me as the EMS guy. So we have done a few videos on forms of ownership. Today I want to do a summary on the forms of ownership just to show you how they fall in line, how you can study it in an easier way, and hopefully it will help you. If you haven't watched the previous videos, make sure you do it. And while you're doing it, hit like, subscribe and share. See you in this video. And we're back. So in summary of forms of ownership, I've compiled this quick Excel sheet and I want to take you through, and we're going to look at a few factors that once you consider which form of ownership is best for you, we're going to compare all of the different forms of ownership from a sole trader all the way through to a public company. So you can work through this with me. And the first one, we're talking about the name. Now this is how you recognize if this is a formal company or a informal, which I refer to as a not legally registered company. When you look at the sole trader and partnership, you'll see it's highlighted in orange or a type of orange, and the closed corporation right up to public company is in green. I've sorted them and placed them in this order because the difference is the closed corporation, private company and public company, they are legally registered, and there's a few things that they have to adhere to, whereas a sole trader and a partnership is your more informal type businesses, not legally registered, and we'll see the difference in due course. So it's an easy distinction between the two types when you talk about registration, but let's look at them. Name for a sole trader, there's no requirements. A partnership, you can see it ends with Peter and Co, Money and Sons, you'll always see an and. Closed corporations, the name must end with a CC. Private companies, name must end with a Pty Limited, and public companies must end with the letters LTD, which stands for Limited. Ownership is important. Sole trader, they're the owners, they're the manager, there's one of them. Partnerships, too many. There's always too many in a partnership, but they are the owners and the managers. That means they're directly involved. Now when you look at the closed corporation, they've got 1 to 10 members. That's the owners and the managers, right? So they still have a personal interest, like a sole trader and a partnership, but they've crossed the line into a formal registered company, or a corporation, excuse me. A private company must have a minimum of 1 shareholder, and the same with a public company. So you can see there's a few similarities. Management, we've talked about that, and here's where a company is actually different than the other forms. They have to hire someone, an expert, which is normally your director. So a private company must have a minimum of 1 director, and a public company a minimum of 3 directors, which gives them a tactical advantage because you have a skilled expert on site. When we look at the formation, it's easy for a sole trader to start, no legal requirements. With a partnership, the same, they just have to have a formal partnership agreement. With a CC, you can no longer establish a closed corporation. Priorly, they also had to have a formation statement. And then your private and public companies, they need to be registered with the registrar of companies. They have to submit their memorandum of incorporation, and all the formal documents that is required with it, like a prospectus. When we talk about risk, a sole trader has to carry all of the risk. Partnership, they carry all the risk, and we're going to find out what that means when we talk about the term liability. Whereas in a closed corporation, right up to the public companies, they share the risk because they are now a formal registered company, because the company is a legal entity. So the risk is much lower. They're not personally liable for the business's debts or the liabilities. Therefore, it's a very low risk form of ownership. Profit, when you have a sole trader or a partnership, you split everything. All the profit belongs to a sole trader, or it's split between the partners. Whereas if you go over to a CEC, a closed corporation, it's split between the members, and then with a company, the profit goes to the shareholders in the form of dividends. But your directors, they're just employees, so they get a salary. Tax is an interesting one. Everyone in this bracket pays a personal income tax, right? Sole traders, partnerships, and even the owners in a public and a private company, they pay personal income tax on their dividends. Whereas if you have or that's the directors, but with what makes it different is when you have a company, the shareholders pay dividend tax, which is 15%, but the company pays standard company tax, which is fixed at 28%, which is much lower than if you were a sole trader and your turnover was high, let's say $1 million per month, you would have almost racked up 45% tax. So that's why you want to actually register a company. When we talk about legal entity, here's the big difference. Sole trader and partnership is not a legal entity, whereas a CC to a private and a public company is a legal entity. That makes it that they can continue to exist when there's a change of ownership. With a sole trader and partnership, they will cease to exist the moment it ends. And I just want to have one last slide to add with liability, which is in a sole trader and partnership, the owner carries all the risk, has unlimited liability. In partnerships, we call it severely and liable, jointly and severely liable, which means you are, if we're in a partnership, you are liable for my decisions and I'm liable for yours, which makes it a high risk. Whereas if you're in a company or a CC, that liability is gone. You have a limited liability because the company or the corporation is liable for its own debts and actions. So this is a quick summary. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next videos.